Good evening and welcome to another exciting episode of Real Talk here at the studios of Hope TV Ghana. My name is Evie and tonight we are here again to have another very interesting conversation. You know, forgiveness is something that we all struggle with. As Christians, we are always encouraged to forgive, to practice forgiveness because of its benefits. But then there are certain situations that are always difficult to forgive. You need grace. You need to come to a point where you believe that is the right decision to take. It is not easy. You hear people say, oh, let it go, let it go. But when you remember the things that you have been through, especially when it's caused by somebody who is supposed to love you unconditionally, it can be very, very difficult to forgive. And especially when the person who has hurt you is not even asking for your forgiveness, but you're expected to forgive. We have a story on our table today for discussion. We'll go into all that soon, but it's all about your perspective on forgiveness. Do you think this is a situation where this person has to forgive? And then what does he do after forgiveness? Is forgiveness achieved when you have decided to let everything go and go ahead and show the person grace? Or you can say, I have forgiven you, but I'm creating this boundary where I am not going to allow you into my space again. I'm not going to care about you again. Almost like I will forgive, but I will not forget. You know, we hear that all the time. Yes, we are going to have that discussion. My name is Evie. I'd like to remind you that we are live on Facebook and YouTube, Hope TV Ghana. So you can join the conversation by streaming live. You can subscribe and like our pages as well. And you can leave your comments under the comment section. Real Talk is a very interactive talk show. And so we encourage you to leave your comments under our comment section. And as the program progresses, we will be able to take some of your comments and read. I would like to remind you also that you can also be an angel of hope by dialing *928*34*104# and follow the prompts. You can also send your donations to Hope's channel at 0249193080 and automatically you become an angel of hope. We are very grateful for your donations and it is going a long way to touch the lives of tons of people. So thank you very much and God richly bless you. On that note, we are still in a celebratory mood. We are celebrating 5 years of impacting and changing lives here at Hope Channel Ghana. And we've been doing that for some weeks now. We had a fundraising and Thanksgiving Awards night here in Accra. And we are going to take it all the way to Kumasi on the 1st and 2nd September, which is just, Friday and Saturday this week. We are going to come to Kumasi. We are going to have a hymns night, and then we are going to have a Thanksgiving and fundraising awards night as well on Sunday at the New Tafo SDA Church. I hope you'll join us. We'll all be there to grant the occasion. So now let's get back to our story and what we have to discuss. As always, I have amazing panelists in the studio with me and joining me virtually as well. Let me go ahead and introduce them to you. I have Pastor Kuzaku George. Pastor, how do you, it seems you like your surname to be pronounced before your first name, or any of them is fine.
Any of them is fine.
Pastor, how are you doing?
By God's grace, I'm fine.
I think it's been a while you came on Real Talk. I remember the last time you came on.
Yeah, that was somewhere last year or so.
Yeah.
It's been quite a lot.
It's good to have you. It's good to have you. And then I have Mrs. Diana Ofori. Please, how are you doing?
Fine, thank you.
It's good to have you.
Yeah.
I know there's something exciting happening at Chumosa that you'll get into very shortly. I'll give you the opportunity to do that. I will go ahead and introduce my other panelists who are joining me via Zoom as well. I have Grace Bonfo. Grace, can you hear me? I think you're muted, or is it from my end?
I can hear you. Can you
Yes,
hear me?
I can now hear you.
Okay.
Grace, it's good to see you again. How are you doing?
Good to see you too. I'm doing very well. And you?
It's so good to have you in the studio, and I hope you're ready for the conversation.
Yes, it's good to be had.
Yeah. So finally, and definitely not the least, I have Pastor Godfred Kwesi Ataburu. Pastor, can you hear me?
Yes, please, I can.
How are you doing, Pastor?
By God's grace, I'm fine. And you?
I'm also fine. It's so good to have you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So I'll go in and read our story to us, then we can go into the conversation. We have titled it, Am I Expected to Bury a Father Who Didn't Take Care of Me? Dear Real Talk, I am a young man who has encountered struggles in life. Throughout my upbringing, my relationship with my father was not strong, as he harbored a deep bitterness towards me. He never treated me as a son and distanced himself from me. Even during my time in senior high school, despite my father's brother being the headmaster, he showed no interest in my education and never reached out to check on me. I witnessed my mother's sacrifices, even selling her cloth and eating once a day just so she could pay for my school fees, while my father's dislike for me grew higher due to the unfortunate circumstances surrounding my birth, which led to the loss of his job. He has blamed me for that and how his once good life turned upside down. He got a new job and wasn't doing too bad, but that was never enough for him, and he has hated me for that. I encountered difficulties in certain courses during my academic journey. I mustered the courage to seek his help to rewrite my exams, but instead he insulted me, calling me a disgrace. Despite his actions towards me, I pushed forward, striving to create a better life for myself, and with this determination, I have been able to succeed as the owner of a famous company. Now, this same father is dead, and his family members are now asking for my help to bury him and organize a big funeral. This has caused me so much pains and resentments because none of them helped me when I needed them most. But now, they want me to come and organize a big funeral just for show. I don't want to help them. Is that bad? Do I have to bury my father and organize a funeral at all costs? They claim as the first and only male child, it's my responsibility. Where was his responsibility to his male child? I want to ignore all of them. Would that be acceptable? Will I be wrong for treating him just as he treated me? If he wasn't a father when he was alive, why should he be buried as a father in death? Please help me decide on what to do. It's a very dicey one, if I should say. What to do as a Christian, and what to do with the justification of how you feel a father who didn't take care of you. Pastor, what's going through your mind?
Yeah, a lot, Evie, a lot. As a matter of fact, it is a real story. It is actually happening in our world today. And the earlier we come to terms with it and find solutions and antidotes, the better it will be for us.
Yeah.
May we not sit aloof and think it is just a fairy tale. No, these are real happenings in our world. And people across the globe are actually going through pains, emotional, psychological, and physical pains because of parental neglect. But through it all, we can see the hand of God leading and directing our affairs, that God, even in this absurdity, had not abandoned us. His grace had led us on. And thankfully enough, the gentleman could say that he is a successful, well-to-do businessman.
Yeah.
We should just be thankful to God for that. But it is very pathetic, very unfortunate, but he's been able to embrace the odd and to succeed after all.
Thank you, Pastor. Madam Diana, what is your take on this story?
My take actually is this guy should know the world is unfair in most ways, because you cannot live a life free of issues. I mean, not having problems. You certainly have a problem. So he should take it as one of the things, let's say misfortunes that has happened on his way. The Lord has taken him far, even through this.
Yeah. Pastor Godfred, what is your take? Do you agree so far with what Pastor and Madam Diana has said, or you have a different opinion?
My opinion is that it's unfortunate the father had to make this innocent boy a victim of the misfortune he has faced. the boy did not contribute to the loss of his job. I don't know what he did at his birth to be able to make him lose his job. What we need to understand is that it was unwise to blame the innocent child, and it was unfair to make him a victim. But whatever has happened, he should be thankful to God that his destiny was not defined by his father's neglect, and that despite all that happened, God has been able to lift him up to a pedestal where today family can look up to him and expect him to bury the father. That should teach him a lesson that it is God who blesses. And so even if the father was irresponsible, for the fact that grace has found him and today he's excelling in life, he should be thankful to God and still do what is expected of him as a son.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right, Pastor. It's rather unfortunate. Grace, what's going through your mind right now?
First, I want to sympathize with the young man. It can't have been easy to be treated that way by your father. But my general take on the story, like everybody is saying, forgiveness is not an easy journey. You know, it's hard to do something for somebody when you've not forgiven the person. So I understand that he doesn't feel the need to do it. I can agree to some extent, but to do what's expected of him, what I would say is to do what he can, not what is expected. Because for the mere reason that he's the son doesn't mean he has to put on a big show. And that last statement he made was a powerful one. If he wasn't a father in life, why should we treat him as one in death? And I know we're Christians, we want to forgive, but he also has a family to take care of. He has things that he also wants to do. So as much as it's in him, he should just do what he can to help with the funeral, but to bear the cost and put on a show, I don't think you should do that.
Grace has already made her stance. But Pastor, before we get into what he should do and what he shouldn't do, let's speak about parents who blame children when the unexpected happens. There are instances where parents will say, oh, immediately I gave birth to you, nothing good was happening in my life, and you must be some cursed child, and I don't know how you came into my life. Is this the right way to go? They are unforeseen things that happen. We can't predict the future. But when these things happen, how should parents handle it so that they don't put all the blame on the children?
Now, one thing we need to understand is this, that these children we bring into this world did not, first of all, beg us to give birth to them.
Right.
It wasn't any of their decision. When the man and the wife, or the husband and the wife sat and began to reflect and contemplate it, and concluded that we need to now bring children forth into this world. Those innocent children were not consulted in the first place.
Right.
They came because of an action that took place between the husband and the wife, and God benevolently actually listened to their prayers and rewarded them. So how on earth will a child be blamed for a mishap that happened during childbirth or during the course of his or her upbringing?
Right.
Yes, circumstances or situations may change along the way, and coincidentally, it could happen that during the birth of that child, this particular thing happened, but that child had nothing, you understand, nothing to do with that mishap that happened. For us to now pour our anger and frustration upon those innocent children and blame them for the mishappenings in our life, and as a result of that, conclude to say that because of you, I suffered this, and for that matter, I'm not going to play my role or be responsible towards you. That is an absurdity, if I would just put it that way.
It is indeed absurd. I don't know how a father would ever think that. Madam Diane, I don't know if you have any more to add to what Pastor said, but do you think this guy is expected to bury his father? All jokes aside, like, let's be very real. Do you think that he's expected to do this that the family is asking of him? And he mentioned that this same family, when he was struggling, he went there and they didn't mind him. All of a sudden, they know him.
Well, I will advise, or I will take the stand that he should bury the father. In as much as God has taken care of you, we should know all that has happened to him throughout his life, and the success he has now has not been his strength. Right. It's all by the strength of the Lord and his guidance and protection. So since we know a supreme being is taking care of us, we ought to obey some of his commands. We have to put things in order in honor of the supreme being taking care of us. So I think he should do that even in honor of a commandment of God.
I think when you put it that way, it melts your hard heart, you know, because to look at it from the angle of, I'm not doing this for you, I'm doing this for the one who created me and the one who has carried me throughout the years, as you have beautifully put it. And Pastor Godfrey, do you agree? Do you think this gentleman should bury his father? And then also, I don't know if you have more to add to why parents do blame children for unexpected occurrences in life.
For parents blaming children, I think Pastor has said it all.
Yeah.
Children are a product of the parents' decision and choice. And so, even if, as he might have thought, the child is a biological child, who brought the child? It is your choice to bring him. And you should be responsible for your actions. We cannot blame the innocent child. But even if he is to blame, who brought him into life?
True.
If both of you had not had any affair, I'm not sure this child would have dropped out of the moon. So they cannot blame the child, whatever his reasons might have been. Again, if you ask whether he's expected, the question is, who is expecting him to bury the child? From the Christian perspective, if he's a Christian, then by the tenets of godliness, God says that we should honor our parents. It is not on condition that our parents took care of us. He said, honor your parents, that your days may prolong on the land I'm giving to you. So if you look at it from the perspective of God, yes, he's expected. But from the family's perspective, he is not expected, because they have neglected responsibility. And he can choose from the ordinary point of view to also neglect his responsibility, and you cannot overblame him. But once he's a Christian, then because God has called him and expects obedience from him, he might do it for the love he has for God, but not because the father deserves it.
Right.
Now, when it comes to the family, I think the family, what they can do is to reason with him and seek his support, but not to command or threaten him that if he doesn't do it, he will be held responsible. As a matter of fact, he is not to be threatened because he has a choice to make. Now, as to how the funeral must be organized, he would have to decide what his strength can afford. He is not the only child of the father. He is not the only family member. There are other relatives. There are other children. They can come together and team up to bury their father. I'm thinking the family, looking at what he has today, are trying to cash in his wealth. Because they know this opportunity passes by and they might not get it again. But he has a choice to be a good steward. To bury the father does not demand a big funeral. If the family members expect a big funeral, they should contribute their part so that it can be big as they expect it to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. But Pastor, don't you think, even to you, Pastor, as well, don't you think that parents sometimes use this obey your parents in the Lord to get away with things? It's almost as if, oh, I can do whatever I want to do, and then because I know my child is following God or is a Christian, they can use that saying to say the Bible says obey your parents, but the Bible also said in the Lord. So when do you say, you know what, in this moment I am not going to obey you, in this moment I'm going to obey you. Because I do hear that a lot. Usually when you are refusing to do something that you're not comfortable with, then they'll bring out that scripture, forgetting that it says, do not provoke your children to anger. So
you've said it right. In fact, the Bible says, children, obey your parents in the Lord.
Right.
What it means is that the parent must first be seen to be walking in the ways of the Lord. Then they can now instruct their children to walk in that path. It is only then that the child had that obligation to actually walk in the path they are actually asking him to go. So if a parent is doing something untoward, something contrary to what the Bible has said, then I am not under any obligation to obey them.
Okay.
I should obey them in the Lord. But to add a little to what my brethren have said, you know, the story of this young man, I don't know if probably he is watching or listening to us, but it could be synced with something that happened in the Bible. When you read 2 Samuel chapter 9 verses 1 to 13, it's a story about David, Jonathan, and Saul. In that very chapter, David made an inquisition. Is there somebody left in the house of Saul that I may show kindness to because of Jonathan, or for the sake of Jonathan? Who was Saul? Who was David? Saul was David's avowed enemy. Saul had threatened, had done everything possible to eliminate David because he wished he could indeed give his throne to his son, Prince Jonathan. But that never happened. God chose David instead of what? Jonathan. And that made Saul become so much angry at what David. He tried to eliminate him in every way, but God had preserved his life. Now in a war, Saul was dead.
Yeah.
Prince Jonathan was no more. All his children are dead and gone in that war with the Philistines at Jezreel. We would say in the human perspective that David will have his own way.
Yeah.
His enemies have been eliminated by a supreme hand, not of his own doing. But here is David making an inquiry. Is there somebody left in the house of Saul that I may show kindness to him because of what Jonathan said? And there was a Mephibosheth, a son of what? Jonathan, who was even what? A lame person. Now, Saul was dead. Jonathan was gone. Jonathan, who did good to David, was dead and gone. So David could have said that what? Jonathan wasn't alive to ask me to help him or his son. Then I will show kindness or favor too. And again, Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, wasn't also asking me to help him in his situation. And so therefore, I will not bother on mine. But David went ahead to forgive and to also ask if there's a way he will show kindness to. So I would say that the father, yes, now is dead and gone. He wasn't alive to ask him to forgive him and to show kindness towards him. So that's just one from the human perspective. As he said, okay, my father is no more, so I have nothing to do with the relatives who even neglected me.
Right.
But here is the case, the man is dead and these relatives are coming. As my brother rightly said, we would have to forgive. When we were in our sins, we never asked for forgiveness. But when we read Romans chapter 5 verse, it says, even in the midst of our sins, whilst we were deeply in the gutters of sin, God came to die for us through his son. So he should look at what God did to us when we were in the quagmire of sin. He forgave us. Even on the cross of Calvary, God had every reason to be angry with the disciples and even the religious leaders who deserted and even hanged him. But his first word was, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they're doing. So this brother of ours should look on the words of Christ and forgive. As he forgives, he should now ask himself, when a funeral happens in the African setting, it is not a one-man's business. It is people coming together to bury their dead. So he should look into himself. What is my financial strength? What can I do to help bury now this man, not just any man? He was the man who brought me into this world. Though he neglected his responsibility, but it was through his loins that I came into this world. He should just do what he can and then allow the family to take care of the rest. As to how big the family will want it, that is not his business to think about.
That's their business. Yeah. Right. Thank you so much, Pastor. Grace, I'll come to you. What is your take? Do you think he's expected to bury his father who did not take care of him?
I don't, like everybody's saying, I don't think he's expected to. If you want to take it, looking at it from the Christian perspective, you can say yes, because I guess the ultimate example of forgiveness will be Jesus on the cross saying they know not what they're doing, and choosing to forgive us. By the extent of the help or that expectedness, he gets to decide that. The family can't tell him what to do or what the extent of help should be. If he were not a Christian, he wouldn't even try to do it at all. But because he's a Christian, he's going to try to do what he can. Let's also realize that he also has to heal these emotional things. And from a non-Christian standpoint, if I were to advise from a non-Christian standpoint for him to do it, it will only be to appease his conscience in the future, so that when he looks back, he can be able to say, even though this man didn't do something for me, at least I can sleep at night knowing that I did this for him. That's if, in the future he wants to look back and appease his conscience, because you don't know how your actions today might affect you tomorrow, how it's going to, look tomorrow. So because of these things, he can choose to, but I don't think he's expected to. Funerals are a family affair. It's not a one-man business. And just because somebody is doing well doesn't necessarily mean finances are going well. That's something people need to understand. People can be bankrupt, but can be smiling at your face. A lot of things can be going wrong that he's choosing not to disclose. They don't know the intimate details of his finances, so they can't expect a show. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's not expected to, but he should do what he can according to his strength. And back to the blaming thing, I'm not sure why his dad chose to blame him. Like the pastors have all said, being born was an independent decision of, it had nothing to do with the child. So he shouldn't also carry that guilt with him. He should also try to let that guilt go. Even though that's what he's been told, that it's his fault, he has to come to a place where he recognizes that it's not his fault and that he can let that go.
Absolutely. And it's interesting you should say that, Grace, because I know of a personal story where two people who are carriers of the sickle cell disease made a decision that they will get married upon all advices. And then, unfortunately for them, their first child was a sickle cell, patient. And the child had crisis. They kept going to the hospital. And my brother was working at Kolebu by then, and they get there. And my brother asked him, do you remember you guys came to do your test here and I told you about the risk factors, implication? And then you told me that when you get to the bridge, you cross. And then the woman started crying. It got so bad that the man one day at the hospital neglected the woman and the child and said, it looks like the child only gets sick when he is paid. So he must be a demon child. And left the child and the woman there. She started crying. So Pastor, like everyone has clearly said, we make our own decisions. And when the consequences come, we blame innocent children. It's rather unfortunate. But we should do better as parents. We would have to go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at the benefits of forgiveness. And then we'll also talk about, does forgiveness mean going ahead to do the funeral? Or he can forgive them and then say, you know what, I forgive him. He didn't help me, but that is the end. I'll probably come and show my face, but do not expect me to put down any significant amount of money towards the funeral. We'll be right back after the break. Do not go anywhere. This is Real Talk.
Say promo for yes, Hope channel Ghana and if you know what try abubuano pair mitchera o sacrum no tafo ezias afodanim nyame adoma ebobo so mene de tosu mienu afin pinu ne aduonu miensam ya e wo no tafo ezias afodanim Hope Channel Ghana ede ayeye somsonko ehye so ye fita ne ababi otwero di ampo ye oba woni verse t-shirt no so ya hye wate no ndu pepe penadwumadie no ye de ahye so enya sanketua se oba pekakrawate fatufutu mu ne mfa mo Hope Channel asene afin pinu ne aduonu miensam ya mechele ne fiada ansa na homeda no aba no eye him service sonko kura ye ne kwasa twotwo wura e wo se kromo wo todom dew ana ehia wo dan no mu eda no eye ne gie nkwa wada no mabra enme no so pepepepepe ne de ahye so Hope Channel fie num afahye eye ne gie nkwa channel yes sabra Hope Channel ye ma enida so
I am an angel of hope.
I'm an angel of hope.
Ubrenio so do sika ebeba beboa Hope Channel no waso yasene yetumi da mesem no akọ omanhwi aso ne ni tworom nyana wadaroma fa homan na fa usika fa so bi na onso fa bra ne ko kanyamsem anya akra ewu nkwa *928 *34 *104 hash anase 0249193083 Hope Channel yes sabrabo Hope Channel ya ji akra no nkwa.
Quick break. We are still in the studios of Hope TV Ghana. My name is Evie, and we are having a very important conversation today, which is on forgiveness. But this story has been titled, Am I Expected to Bury My Father Who Did Not Take Care of Me? I've been doing this with Pastor Kuzaku, Mrs. Diana, Pastor Godfred, and Grace joining me virtually. And so far we've been having the conversation, and I can see a lot of comments on Facebook. I want to read a few before we go back into it. Mami Ajo Aqua says, if your father had given you the needed attention and love and support, you would have ended up as a mediocre. You would have ended up a mediocre or a low salary earner. Be it as the norm now. But the rejection and his attitude exposed you to training and preparation to be a mighty millionaire and a CEO, as stated. This is a lie. If the father had given him the love and care, he would still have prospered even the more, not just financially, but also emotionally. There are a lot of children and adults struggling in life because their fathers have ignored them. How can you give birth and hate your own child? And you think that is what has made him rich? No. Do you know the things he is lacking and struggling with because of this? We always give irresponsible men the reason to be more irresponsible, and later in life we use Bible to manipulate the children to take up a responsibility as if nothing happened. And she goes on to say, God has prepared and blessed you for a time such as this. Let the world see the manifestation of pure and unconditional love. Rejecting the family is a sign that you still have the pain in you, which is not godly or divine. This is also a big lie. God did not make him rich to come and give a befitting burial to anyone. He has nothing to prove to the world. His focus should be his relationship with God and not the world. He owes no one anything. God has prepared him to use his resources to support his business, and is definitely not a befitting burial. Has the family even seen the need to genuinely apologize to him, or they are using culture and tradition to force him to do that? Have they realized that they didn't do right by him and sought to do the right thing? And do you think that pleases God? Let's stop using God to manipulate the emotions of others. Yes, he needs to forgive him for his own salvation's sake, but he doesn't have to conduct any big funeral as the family expects. even if he can afford to show that he has forgiven him. He can do all that show and still not forgive him and still be bitter about the family. Like he said, he is dead and won't even know what happens at his funeral. So this is just what the family wants him to do, to please themselves and boast about it. We are in Ghana and we know how family members behave about the dead. He can just contribute and attend the funeral, and that is it. That big funeral won't do anything positive to the dead father. Hagar Ajiman says, it's the hardest thing to give away, the last thing on your mind today. It always goes to those who don't deserve it, and that thing is forgiveness. Forgive your father. The prisoner that forgives will free. The prisoner that forgiveness will free is you. What your father most need from you is forgiveness, so God will forgive him too. As for the funeral, buy the least price coffin and donate the rest of the budget you'd have given to his funeral had he been a good father to you, to a cause that addresses cases such as yours. I believe your father will appreciate that more. Matthias says, brother, the best thing was when he was alive, not when he is no more. Let them do the funeral and have their show. You can contribute though, but invest for yourself and family. Nana Asari says, my brother, don't bother yourself worrying about the dead. If the family wants a befitting burial for their brother, they should go in for a loan and do that. The way some of us are traumatized because of the negligence of our fathers, eh? Now, dear, the family know he has a son. When he was being maltreated, where were they? This is in Chi. Okay. That money can be used to invest in your company, or better still, you can donate it to the orphanage homes. Irresponsible fathers always have this notion that the child, no matter what, will still come back to them. That was in the 18th and 19th century. They better reason up and do the right thing. My brother, chill up and concentrate on your work. There's a lot more, but I can't read any. You can see people's sentiments. People are not in for this at all. It has gotten to the point where it's almost sad to hear people on and on saying this has caused irresponsible fathers has done this, irresponsible parents even, because we have mothers who are neglecting their children, has caused this, and it's rather sad. But I want to come to you, Madam Diana. I want to ask, what are the benefits of forgiveness for him, himself, for his soul, for the dead man somewhere, for the family, and even for the whole society? What is the benefit of forgiveness?
Benefits of forgiveness, I think I'll take it personally because you are going to be freed from a lot of things you've been thinking about when you forgive.
Yeah.
Let's say the dad did that and the pain is still in him.
Yeah.
And now when he decides to forgive and forget about it and takes up what he can do and does it, I think he will be free inwardly.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, I do agree. Pastor, in more to add. And also to add on, does forgiveness mean that he should go ahead and organize this funeral for his dad?
Yeah, one scholar by name Louis Smedis, an author, wrote in his book, to forgive is to set a prisoner free. I think one commentator said that. And you would later discover that the slave person is no other but you yourself. So forgiveness liberates you from the pains of the past, the hurts of the past, and the resentment you feel each time you see people who have hurt you in the past.
Right.
So forgiveness liberates you from that shackles. Again, it helps you to grow in life, in that you have that free mind to think positive towards and about every other person. Again, forgiveness breaks that barrier between you and your God, because even in the Christ sermon, what we normally call the Beatitude, it says, forgive us as we forgive those who have what? Wronged or hurt us in the past. So God even commands us to forgive those who have hurt us. That even if we don't forgive, then how much do we expect He, our God, to also what? Forgive us. And then finally, to say that forgiveness draws us closer to our God, and it builds that relationship we have with our God. So in our words, we say to forgive is divine. To err is human. Now, to ask, does forgiveness means he should go ahead and do the funeral? we have said this a couple of times, that it is his Christian duty to forgive the father who abused, neglected, and indeed disgraced him when he needed him the most. It is his Christian duty. Christ forgave us when we never deserved it. Then, too, should he go ahead to perform the funeral? Assuming even this person in question wasn't his biological father, and society sees him to be somebody with little worth, society could appeal to him that come and assist us.
True.
Do you understand it?
Yeah.
You don't need to have a relationship with somebody before you assist the person. But here is the case, this person we're talking about was your father. And so therefore, he should again look deep within himself. What is it that I can do that tomorrow I will not have myself to blame? That, oh, I wished I had given them a token or a little support or a help. As to how flamboyant the family will want it, that is not his, duty. It is not a compelling force. He should ask himself, what is it I can do to just make the funeral just successful?
Yeah.
And he will just do his honest part and leave the rest.
Right, absolutely. Pastor, I'm coming to you, Pastor Godfrey. I'm going to ask, what are the benefits of forgiveness in your opinion? I don't know if you have more to add to what Pastor has said. And then that mean he should go ahead and organize the funeral for a man who didn't take care of him?
Okay, thank you. Let's set the record straight. People, our viewers are saying that we are using Bible to manipulate him.
Oh, yeah.
I don't believe that. It is because he subscribes to the Bible as his source of authority and source of inspiration. What God expects from us, it does not benefit God. It benefits we ourselves. When you read Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 12 and 13, say, what does the Lord require of you but to keep his commandments and to walk in his statutes for your own good? When God asks you to forgive, your forgiveness does not benefit God, but it benefits you yourself.
Right.
And so when we say that because you subscribe to the tenets of Christianity, play by the rules of forgiveness, it is not manipulation. It is because you say you are a Christian. Beyond that, I believe strongly that his father was not a Christian. Even if he attended church, he was only pretending to be a Christian and he was a hypocrite. Now, if you claim that you are a Christian, what will distinguish you from your father? If you want to hold onto his head and then give him revenge. God says that vengeance is mine. I will repay.
Yeah.
If you want to avenge for yourself, the question is that how will your father feel the payback? He's dead. He's lifeless. And so your decision now does not even affect your father. It is only a presumption to think that if you refuse to bury your father, you are paying him back.
Yeah.
He doesn't really care because he's a dead person. The question that comes to mind is that if you refuse to show this love and care that the family is asking, indirectly you are telling the family you are living with, even your own nuclear family, your wife, that you are unforgiving, and your wife will be afraid of you. If you can't forgive your father who is dead, your wife too should be ready to be a victim tomorrow. And so it is not just for the sake of the dead person, but for even those who are living, to be able to tell them that even though my father did ABCD, I am doing this because I am different. I am a child of God. I can let go. Now you ask for the benefits of forgiveness. Our sister mentioned it. It frees you of your emotional built up that can lead you to so many medical conditions. It will allow you to get healed. If you don't forgive, you can't get healing. Yes, it's true he has been traumatized, but he can only be healed after he had made a choice to let go. Forgiveness is not given to the undeserving, but is given in spite of the reasons that you can use as an excuse not to forgive. When you don't forgive, it trickles up to the innocent people that are connected to the offender. Now, the people that surround your father, be it his relatives or your own siblings, if you refuse to support in this burial, what it means is that the burden will be borne by your siblings. And I'm sure your mother will still be a part in this funeral service. So if you pull out, then the contribution per person will shoot up. And the question is that, will they be able? Because whatever happens, you know the families we live in. When there is debt, it is for the immediate relatives, like the kids.
Yeah.
But if there is assets to share, then the uncles will come in and take it up. So even if this guy should pull up, his younger siblings will be forced to bear the burden, and it will be much on them. So looking beyond the father, I'm sure that if he takes into consideration his siblings, who will bear the greater responsibility, his support at least will ease them up. And from that point of view, I think it is relevant that he shows his concern, at least for the sake of his own siblings.
Yeah.
As for the father, nobody can excuse or justify his irresponsible behavior. But he has a choice to make.
True.
To let go and to be free, or to hold on and to be a slave to the situation that he finds himself in now. Thank you.
True. Thank you so much. To let go and be free, or to hold on and be a slave. Grace, I'll come to you. I'll take your opinion on the last bit of question. If you have any to add to the benefits of forgiveness, and if that means that he should go ahead and organize the funeral. And then I'll take your final words, because I want to quickly come back to Pastor and Madam Diana to tell us what is happening at Achimota. So Grace, what is your opinion on that?
I think everybody has said it. Forgiveness allows such an emotional and mental release of built up emotions. You know, you stay in this heightened state of emotions when you're unforgiven. Even when you don't want to think about it, when you hear something, it almost always triggers it. And I was going to come in, but I think Pastor also did it. From the point of health, it affects your health. And then the people who are not even supposed to be reaping from that start to reap from that, like your children. You know, it changes your views on whether to trust people, things like that. And it might even affect his relationship with his children in the future. Sure. Maybe his children will do something and then he interpreted as, oh, my dad was not there, I'm here for you, but look at what you're doing. You know, it trickles down into many things. And so forgiveness allows him to free his mind. And two, the benefit is for his salvation. I mean, in the end, who really knows if his dad did ask for forgiveness before he died for what he did to his son? Maybe his father will make it to heaven and he won't make it to heaven because of his unforgiveness, you know. So just for his own salvation's sake, he needs to work on his forgiveness. So those are the ultimate benefit is being in heaven and not even the funeral or whatever is going on this planet Earth. And doesn't mean he's expected to. It does not. But once you forgive, you know, it's from a place of love. It's the same way Jesus dealt with us. Once he forgives you, he doesn't stop blessing you. He doesn't say, I'm forgiving you, but I'll withhold this blessing. I'm forgiving you, but I'm seeing if you change. You know, he accepts your forgiveness as you saying, I have repented. So if he's going to walk in the same light as Jesus, he's going to have to try to do something. Not put on a show, but play his part. And also to all that Pastor has said, if he doesn't help, there are going to be effects that are going to be felt on his mom, his siblings, and all that. And so just to set a good example for his salvation's sake, and for the fact that he wants to be a good Christian, he can go ahead and forgive and also help according to his strength. My last words will be that he should just do what he can and take his time to heal. Nobody should rush his healing. He should allow himself go through the motions, go through the processes, because he's lived a long life And he has felt at every point when his father was not there. So he's going to have to, go through the process and realize that the healing is not going to be a one, even if he helps with the funeral, it's not going to fix it.
Yeah.
It's going to be a process. So he should allow himself to grieve it and then let it go.
Absolutely. Grace, I couldn't have said that any better. But then before you go into what is happening, in a sentence, your final words for this young man.
I'm thinking deep about his salvation. So I would advise he does the part he can to bury the father. That shows the love he has and the respect he has for God, even in his father's death. He buried him in honor of honoring your parents.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's true. That's the final word.
Yeah, mine will be taken from Proverbs 24, verse 29. Solomon says, "Do not say, I will do to them as they have done to me. I will pay them back for what they did." Based on this, I'll only admonish our dear brother. Yes, one, he should acknowledge that he's been hurt, he's been abused and neglected. That should be a certainty he should come into terms with. And as our sister said, forgiveness and being healed is a process. He should allow himself to go through the process. But what is at stake now has to do with the late father's mortal remains that needed to be laid to rest. He should give his widow's mite to help the funeral become successful.
Okay, so Pastor Kuzaku, Mrs. Ofori, what is happening at Achimota?
Oh, Achimota is celebrating the 25th anniversary, and in the process we are having lots of activities. And this time around on 2nd, which is come Sabbath, there's going to be a very grand homecoming program. We are taking the opportunity to invite all, most especially those past members of Achimota. The old choirs are going to sing, the singing band are going to sing. And we have our old music directors like Peter and Amo and all of them. So we are inviting everybody to come and witness the goodness of God to Achimota Church.
Wow, 25 years. Pastor, that's not a joke.
25 years is no joke, but to put it in its rightful perspective, 25 years of the church being organized. Achimota Church was planted in the 1986, which means in the year 2026 years, the church will be 40 years old.
Yeah.
But, the church goes through processes. It was planted as a Sabbath school branch, grew to become a company, and finally was organized into Sisterhood of Churches in 1998. So between 1998 to 2023, that is 25 years.
Right.
And that is what we want to celebrate in aid of finishing the church building and having it dedicated to the glory of God. The theme with which this celebration is hinged on is "I will go, chosen for a mission." It is a command we received from our Lord that we should go and make disciples, and that is the lifeline of the church. And so this anniversary is hinged on this theme, that we have been chosen for a mission, and for that matter, we should go. As our sister rightly said, the celebration was launched on the 5th of August 2023. And as part of the processes to climax the celebration, we have homecoming, which is coming on this Saturday, 2nd August. September. So we are inviting all and sundry, especially those who have walked through the walls of Achimota. Thankfully enough, we have some notable pastors who are still alive, who have played key role. So we're using this opportunity to extend a hand, towards them. We have the likes like Pastor Kessie, the likes like Pastor Uwameno, Pastor Kodria, Pastor Shushu, and then one church member of Achimota who is now a conference president, Pastor PMK Atta. Yes, thankfully enough, this Saturday he will be delivering the sermon next.
Oh, wow.
So we want to congratulate him and also say we are desiring to see him once again in our midst.
That's great. So what time are we looking at on Saturday?
Yeah, the program starts 8:30 in the morning and it runs through up to 5:30 p.m.
Oh, okay.
We have so many activities, and Mama Dinah will share some few nuggets on those times.
Okay, like I was saying, we have the old choir singing on that day. All singing groups, I mean, old past singing groups are coming. And then we'll see our mom, Maggie, and all those who have been there for some time. Myself, I left about 24 years.
Wow.
We are all coming.
That's nice.
We are all coming.
That's good.
To pray
That's
for
good.
a good day.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Everybody in Accra should make their way to Achimota Church on Sabbath, 2nd September. And everybody in Kumasi should make their way to New Tafel SDA Church for the Thanksgiving for Hope Channel Ghana. I think the weekend is packed. So we have to just be ready to have a fun night, a fun day throughout the night even. And then we should be ready to have a good Sabbath because it looks like it's going to be amazing. I'm excited for Achimota Church. 25 years is not easy at all. And even from the history you just gave, I think the church has done amazing work. So congratulations to you guys for 25 years. And back to the story. But before we give our end response or closing remarks, you've heard from the studios of Hope Ghana, something is happening at Kumasi, Osekrom for Hope Channel Ghana, 1st and 2nd September. We are going to have the hymns night on 1st and then the Thanksgiving and awards fundraising night on 2nd, New Tafel SDA Church. And then on 2nd September here in Accra at the Achimota Church, SDA Church, we are going to have 25th anniversary, and it's going to be based on past events and old members coming through and showing what the Lord has done over these years. I think it would be nice to see faces that you haven't seen in a while, and it's going to be very nostalgic. So if you can make your way there, please do, and let's all have a lovely Sabbath. But thank you all so much for coming and then for helping this young man make a decision. Pastor, thank you so much. Pastor Kuzaku, thank you. Madam Diana, thank you. Pastor Godfred, thank you so much. And then Grace, of course, thank you so much for coming. I think the young man has been told what he needs to hear, and we are praying that he's able to like Grace said, it's not easy. Take time to heal, but be ready to go through the emotions to heal. The pain, the bitterness, the resentment, it will come. It will be probably making you take some decisions or do things that is not even you. And so I'm hoping that the Holy Spirit will talk to you. Pray about it. Pray about it. Talk to your mother about it, how you feel. And then I'm sure you guys can come together. Give him a befitting burial as a man or your father, and then do what you can do. Hopefully the family should be grateful. If they are not, honestly, that's none of your business. They should go ahead and then bury their brother the way they want to. But then do what you can do for them. Contribute what you can contribute for them. And leave the rest to God. Like someone said in the comments, he's dead and gone. He doesn't even know what is going on. This is literally his back case. We are the ones struggling for him now. So let's just go ahead and then do what we can do. And then leave the rest to God. I pray that the Lord heals you, the pain you are going through. And this is just for fathers and parents in general out there. Let's do better for our children. We made a decision to have babies. They come into the world. Let's do better and take care of them as best as we can. And stop that saying of okokra beba, ubadie, okuta udia, okokra beba. That's not the best way to go. Somebody said that the 21st century children, when they go, they won't call. So please, parents, let's all do better. Thank you all so much for coming. So see you at Achimota 2nd, and then Kumasi 2nd and 1st September as well. I hope you enjoy the rest of the content on Hope TV Ghana, and we'll be back same time next week for another exciting episode of Real Talk. Please do have yourselves a lovely evening.